Guys, welcome to another episode of GetPsyched. Thanks so much for tuning in. And today we're looking at procrastination. We're going to look at what procrastination is and how best to combat it. Now, we all put off tasks from time to time, but procrastinators actively seek out opportunities or distractions to not work on a task that is in front of them at that moment. Now, if you're a procrastinator or you know procrastinators, you might hear terms such as I work better under pressure, I'm a crammer type of studier, or I'll have more time tomorrow. Now, these are all classic examples or classic excuses of procrastinators. Now, if this is classic of you, if you're a procrastinator, you're really going to want to stay tuned in to see these steps that are going to help you. If you're not so much of a procrastinator, you still might exhibit some tendencies, and so this video is still going to be really relevant to you guys too. Now, what type of person is usually a procrastinator? Well, believe it or not, perfectionists are often classic procrastinators. Now, why is that? Well, often it's a case that procrastinators would rather not take on a task and risk not doing it perfectly than actually taking it on and not getting 100% correct 100% of the time. Now, when you illustrate it a little bit like that, you can see how perfectionists can be classic procrastinators as well. If this rings true with you, then I would advise you maybe to look at a little bit of research, a little bit of work, primarily by somebody called Carol Dweck. She looks a lot at perfectionists and procrastinating and the different ways that we tackle tasks and how to be successful in those tasks. I actually did a video recently on one of Carol Dweck's books called Mindset in my review in 2 video series where I look at books and articles and review them in 2 minutes. I'm going to attach the link just here so you guys can click on that and have a look at some of her work. Now, if you've clicked on this video, you're probably exhibiting some elements of procrastination, but don't worry because there really are steps that you can take to help solve your procrastination issues. Now, the main thing that rings true with me when it comes to procrastinating is attaching value. Now, attaching value is so important when you're looking at completing a task well and not procrastinating as you're going forward with it. Now, psychologists understand that in order to complete a task well, you have to attribute subjective value to that task. Now, what does this mean? That basically means that you have to attribute or attach value to a task that highlights that task's importance over procrastinating. So basically that means that you have more value for doing the task than not doing the task. So like I said, it's pretty simple. In order to stop procrastinating, we basically have to attach more value to your tasks, or we have to decrease the value of the distraction. Now, when I think personally, one of my least favorite tasks to do is marking student assignments. It's very, very time consuming. At times I find it a little bit boring. And often I procrastinate by watching TV. Now, one of the main steps I could take here is attaching more immediate value to marking those assignments. I could look at how much I enjoy teaching and understand that marking is just part of that. I could highlight the value of the privilege that I have in actually teaching psychology students. And I could also increase value by understanding just how much these students rely on me to teach them and to give them a fair mark in their assignments and exams. And in addition to this, I might also highlight just how much rubbish there is on TV right now. In doing so, I'm increasing the value of the task at hand and I'm decreasing the value of the procrastination or the distraction. Now, this might sound really, really basic and really, really fundamental, but if we really focus on those values, if we focus on increasing value on our task and decreasing the value of our distraction, then we can really tackle our procrastination issues. Now, if my example rings pretty true with you, then what I would advise for you to do is to write down the value that your task is going to give you. In addition to this, you might write down all of the lacking value you might receive from the distractions that you're prone to procrastinate towards. For example, if you're struggling with an essay that you can't get going with and you find yourself constantly procrastinating over, then maybe you could write down things such as if you get a passing grade in this assignment, then you won't have to reset it in the summer. You might also want to add things like doing well in this essay or getting a good mark might open doors of opportunity for you later down the line. Again, focusing on these points, writing them down and really paying attention to adding value to your task and decreasing value of your distraction is going to help you stop procrastinating. Now, one of the main issues with procrastinating and one of the real difficulties with procrastinating is understanding that the reward that you're going to receive is often further down the line and not immediate. This can be really difficult when you're slaving away and working really hard on a task and you're not going to see any reward immediately for it. This is something that psychologists call delay discounting. This fundamentally means that we devalue the reward, or we devalue the task at hand, because the reward we're going to receive is further down the line. Again, if we use the example of students working on assignments or studying towards exams, we can see just how much delay discounting can have an effect on procrastination. If you have an assignment due in 4 months, 4 months might seem like a huge amount of time away. The same could be said for exams that you have later in the year. So it's pretty classic, and everybody understands that what happens is when you first receive your assignment, or you first understand that you've got an exam coming up, you feel quite relaxed because you've got a lot of time. And then all of a sudden it's 1 week before the assignment, or it's 1 week before the exam, and you really don't have enough time to do well in that work. There's been so many studies that have shown that people would rather receive smaller rewards now than larger rewards up to 3 months later. One study in particular showed that people would rather receive $83 now than $100 3 months from now. That might not seem like all that much, but it shows just how much delay discounting has an effect on the reward that we receive. And if we put that in terms of procrastination, we can see that procrastinating and the value of the reward that we receive now has a real impact on us. So how do we tackle delay discounting? Well, it sounds pretty easy, but we have to make the deadline appear closer. If you have a deadline at work or you have a deadline at school, you need to make that deadline seem much closer than it really is. My top tip for this is to write a calendar or a schedule of the timeline from today until your task is due. Count up the number of days that you have left, and take into account the days that you work or the days that you normally wouldn't work or can't work. There might also be some half days in there, there might be some evenings that you can and can't work. Take all of that into consideration and calculate just how much time you actually have available to complete your task. Now, when I do this, the first thing that is highlighted to me is that I probably don't have as much time as I thought I did. If you're at school or university, you're going to have numerous assignments, numerous exams, numerous different deadlines. And so all of these are going to contribute to taking up that time that you've got to complete this one task. Now, actually, by doing this, you're tackling the delayed discounting effect that's causing you to procrastinate by realizing that you really don't have as much time as you first thought. One more step that I'm going to leave you with is attaching reward. Now, we talked about this at the start of the video. A lot of people procrastinate because it's really hard to see an immediate reward for something that you're going to receive much later down the line. So how do we tackle this? Well, we try our best to attach immediate reward every day. My advice here is to write up a list of daily tasks or daily goals that you want to achieve that's going to help you toward your goal. If you've got an assignment due in 4 months, tomorrow you might write a list saying, I want to read 3 articles and analyze them and get some really good information for my assignment. The next day you might have a goal saying, I want to write 1,000 words on those 3 articles that I read the day before. And if you can manage that, in 2 days you've read 3 articles and you've written 1,000 words on those articles towards your assignment. And it might sound like nothing, but at the end of the day, being able to tick off that checklist saying that you've completed those goals does feel really good. And in doing that, you're attaching immediate value or immediate rewards to something that originally you were only going to receive reward for down the line. One of the classic examples of this is that often people ask authors how they find the time to write a full book. Some of the authors I've spoken to say that they write as little as 250 words a day, and that often only takes up about 30 minutes of their time. But it's a goal that they have daily, and they can check that off and receive that immediate reward each day. And if they keep consistent with it, within a year, they've got enough words for a full book. By being consistent and adding reward, they stop their procrastinating habits. So those are my key points for stopping procrastinating, guys. The main point is to add value. It's to focus on that long-term value, that long-term reward, and also highlight the immediate rewards you can receive each day when working towards your goal. Guys, thanks again so much for tuning in to GetPsyched, and hopefully you can stay tuned in and see some upcoming videos coming in the future. Thanks again, guys.